Alright, welcome everyone to this next video on the service graph, and in this video we will look at how the service graph can be used to identify the policies denying traffic flows. So in this graph of mine we have several red arrows, and a red arrow is indicative of a flow that is being denied. Okay, and when you look at the direction of the arrow, this indicates the direction in which traffic is being forwarded. And for example, in this case, we can see that the monitoring namespace is initiating traffic towards the Yao Bank book info, as well as the Hipster Shop namespaces, which in this case is being denied. Okay. Now, if you want to retrieve the raw flow logs, you can click on a particular flow. And as you look at the flow logs in the pane below, you're going to see that certain flows are reported as denied and certain flows are reported as allowed. So in Kubernetes, it is important to bear in mind that a flow could be allowed at the source but denied at the destination. As you implement policies, you're implementing policies according to the workloads you scope in a policy, and each policy is going to have ingress and egress rules. Okay, so for example, if you have a policy for the monitoring namespace, it's possible that that policy permits a flow in the outbound direction, in the egress direction. Similarly, if you have a policy in the Hipster Shop namespace, that policy could be denying or not allowing a particular flow in the inbound direction. Okay, so as you look at these flow logs, it's also important to look at the workload that reported a given flow. So in this example, we can see that the destination reports the flow as denied, but the source reports the flow as allowed. Okay, but the end result, the effective result, was that this flow was denied, and it was denied, at the destination. Okay. Right, so let's look at another example, and for this example, I'm going to double click on the monitoring namespace. And once inside the namespace, I can see that we have a workload called monitoring that is initiating traffic towards Bookinfo, Hipster Shop, and the Yao Bank namespaces. Okay. Now I can click on an individual flow to retrieve the raw flow logs in the bottom pane, as we looked at previously. And on the right pane here, I'm going to have a summary of this flow. And there's going to be a couple of arrows. And as you can see in this example, one arrow is green and the other arrow is red. Now, if the arrow is closer to the destination, that indicates that the flow was denied at the destination. And if this arrow or greater than sign was closer to the source, that indicates that the flow was denied at the source. So given that we've identified that this flow was denied at the destination or in the ingress direction, okay, we can scroll down and look at the ingress rules, or the ingress policies rather, and conclude that it was this ingress policy that denied this particular flow. Now remember that as part of either allowing or denying a flow, it's possible that several policies could have been evaluated, in which case, if you want to identify the policy that resulted in the flow being denied, it would be the last policy in either the egress or ingress direction. And given that in my example here, I have only one policy, I can conclude that it was this policy that denied the flow. But it's possible that you could have a couple of policies or even more evaluated as part of the decision, in which case it's the last policy in the list that would have either allowed or denied a flow. Okay, just keep that in mind. Now, another way you can identify the policy that denied the flow was, so if you look at the logs reported by the destination in this case, in a given log, I can expand the log and look at the policies that were evaluated. And again, in this case, we can see that the security tenant to restrict policy was the one that denied the flow. Now, if you want to go into the policy to evaluate the policy, you could do so by clicking on the policy in the right pane here. And once inside the policy, we can see that this policy does not have any ingress rules permitting traffic from the monitoring namespace. I have a couple of rules here passing traffic from book info and the Ingress Nginx namespace, and everything else is denied according to this rule. Okay. All right, so there you have it, an example, a couple of examples there, walking through how you can use the service graph to identify the policies denying flows in your cluster. All right, so thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.